Sir joins me at this moment for more details on this. Dr. Vatsa, thank you for speaking to us. This is of a lot of importance and interest in people about what could have gone wrong with a 42-year-old who was seemingly fit, that she had a heart attack. In your years of practice, how rare or common is it for food poisoning cases to turn fatal, as some people are suspecting it to be?
So, I mean, in sudden deaths like these, there are always, multiple factors that can play a role. And what I understand is that she was also fasting initially, and then she was on some medication, as in anti-aging medication, and then she took some antacid medication. Now, technically speaking, these medications are relatively safe. The anti-aging medication and also the anti-acid medication, they are relatively safe. However, see, the sudden cardiac deaths, these can occur because of we say it's sudden cardiac arrest, but that is the final step when a person loses life. But before that, there are a sequence of events that happen. Now, these events could be that there is some disruption in the electrical activity of the heart, what we call as arrhythmia. Now, fasting or dehydration can predispose to that, and on top of it, if there are some medications, for example, the medication she took has domperidone in it, and which is known to, which in rare cases can cause something called QT prolongation, which is one of the intervals in the electrical activity of the heart, and if that gets prolonged, that can cause a disruption of the electrical activity, and that can cause sudden cardiac death. I'm not saying that is the reason. But in those, superimposing factors, they combine together. That could also be causing it. That is one. Other is, if there is severe hypoglycemia, there is sudden drop and severe drop in blood glucose levels. Again, given the fact that she had fasted, and sadly the glucose levels drop, and that can lead to all types of arrhythmias. Again, it is not something very commonly you see, but there is a possibility of that can happen. And in such a young patient, it's so sad to see, such a young death. There is also what we tend to forget is pulmonary embolism, which is blood clot traveling from the periphery to the lungs, and then suddenly blocking the respiration, and also causing again sudden cardiac death. And PE, which is pulmonary embolism, can also be a contributing factor. Again, in all these things, there will be some symptoms which we can pick on from history, from the examination bit, and then go further on it. Just lastly, you mentioned about food poisoning. As per my understanding, she had some rice which was a day old from their fridge and heated it. I guess that was heated and eaten. Now, what it can cause at its worst is what we call food poisoning from the rice, which is Bacillus cereus, which is a special kind of bacteria which can be in there and doesn't get killed by minor reheating. That can cause food poisoning, but that food poisoning itself won't cause death. That can start again if there is intense vomiting, intense diarrhea, etc. That can again cause electrolyte imbalance. That electrolyte imbalance, if severe enough, can again contribute towards cardiac arrhythmias, and that can lead to death. So again, these are massive speculations that we're doing. And lastly, sorry, if I could just lastly answer Saurabhji, is that what we are not talking about is that very, very often, as we know in our houses across the board, we take over-the-counter medications, not just medications, supplements, so-called natural supplements or Ayurvedic supplements or any other supplements. We don't have studies as how they impact the concoctions or the mixtures, how they impact our health. I'm not sure if she was taking any. If she was, then also that is something to be looked into, because that we have seen in my own experience that those benign sounding supplements can also cause these kind of toxic effects on the body.
So how dangerous can self-medication be, especially if someone is undergoing anti-aging or such cosmetic treatments?
So, I mean, to be honest, in my practice, I wouldn't even advise a patient to take multivitamin if there is no deficiency. So that is the scientific take on it. But we cannot really control what people take out of over the counter, because this fad of over the counter, not just medication, as I said, just any supplementation from any companies, there's a billion dollar industry, and it is totally uncontrolled, unlicensed. There is no way we can counter that. But yes, they can cause any sort of side effects simply because they have not been studied. If they have been studied and they have been tested and we know what the side effects can be, then we will be prescribing them to the patients, to those who would need it. People taking anything, as I said, concoctions of natural herbs to natural things, so-called multivitamins, we don't know what is in there. It's difficult to figure out how much of side effects, how much of negative impact these things can have. In my view, if you ask me a clinical advice on that, that's what I say to my patients. If your blood tests are not showing any deficiencies, then you shouldn't even be taking a vitamin A or a D or a C unless there are some deficiencies, because at the end of the day, all these are chemicals. We give medication because we know that those chemicals have more benefits than risks. But all the other things are all chemicals, and our body has to deal with them. Our liver has to detoxify them. Our kidneys have to take care of them. Our gastric system has to tackle them. The microbes, the good microbes in our gut health have to deal with them. If not needed, they should not be taken. But lastly, I must also add that the anti-aging medications which are being mentioned, the injections, they are generally safe. It's not that they will cause sudden cardiac deaths on their own unless there are some other incrementing factors involved.